Right. So, okay, so we'll start off with going over the survey. So we finished the formatted survey last meeting, and then we put that into a Google Doc that Makalea helped format because I hadn't used Google surveys before or forms. And then we sent that out. The first link that we sent out that was just the Google Doc, a lot of people were having trouble accessing it. So I embedded it in the website that I had created for the original push for the department for the charter amendment. And it seems like everybody's been able to access it through the embedded link. So that's the second one, the Maui Food Security Now. So that's the reason that we had to embed it, is because it wasn't working for like iPhones and things. And a lot of people were trying to access it through social media. So that was the second link that we sent out via email. And I'll go ahead and pull up. We won't go through the whole survey, but just so you guys can kind of see what the answers are so far on them. Can you guys see that survey? Yeah?
Yeah.
So the responses are here. So I won't go through the detailed responses, but you guys can just get a general sense of how people are responding. So for the infrastructure question, we had 128 people out of the 137 answer yes. So that's awesome. The more yeses we get on this, that means that we listened to the community, we heard the needs, and we're getting that right. So that's a positive thing. And so the next one goes into their comments, and there's 79 responses that we can pull those out and put those into a database to go over. The second one was for markets and distribution. 123 yeses, 6 unsure, and 7 no. We got 94 responses or comments on that. And then for funding, 128 yes, 6 unsure, and 3 no. So these are pretty solid numbers for yeses. And then we got 92 suggestions or comments on that. So we're getting really good feedback. Research and development, 120 yeses, 11 unsure, and 6 no. Education, outreach, and advocacy was 127 yes, 5 unsure, and 4 no. Policy and regulation and assistance, 113 yes, 15 unsure, and 9 no. Agency coordination, 116 yes, 11 unsure, and 6 no. Workforce development, 122 said yes, 7 said no, 6 responded unsure. Invasive species, pests, and threats, 120 yes, 9 no, 8 unsure. Resource regeneration and protection, 121 yes, 9 unsure, 5 no. Contracts and procurement, this one I think a lot of people were more unsure than the other ones. So 110 yes, still a really solid response rate for yes. 18 unsure and 8 no.
Do they understand that question?
There were comments and things on them. There's like 118 comments and suggestions, so I'm not going to go through them right now for those, because each of those we'll pull those out and put them in a database that people can look over. But I think a lot of people just don't understand. So for the unsure, I think they just didn't know if that's something that they think the department should cover, so they just put unsure. They didn't, have an opinion either way. But I think this was the one that got the most unsure answers. But still 110
Yeah.
is pretty solid.
Yeah, it is.
And then let's see, transportation, 104 yeses, 19 unsure, and 12 no. And oh, this one too, agricultural theft, vandalism, and liability, 94 yes, 27 unsure, and 16 no. And then they went through and we got some, you know, feedback on what the most important issues or activities are to people. And then, you know, once we get to the strategic plan part where we're putting forward solutions and proposed projects and activities and initiatives, then we'll get a better ranking scale of what the community wants. But this is what we can use to start the legislation process for the additional duties and responsibilities for the department. So, I mean, 138 responses. So we just got one. So it's going, so, you know, when I worked at the county, to see testimony from more than 100 people was actually a pretty good response rate. A lot of people don't participate in things like that. So if we can get, you know, 300 to 400 responses on this at the end of 3 weeks, that's pretty solid feedback. But we do need to keep pushing it. So I'll ask everybody, you know, to keep bumping it in their social media and to keep pushing it out through emails. And, you know, when you get a chance to talk to people, hey, did you fill that out yet? Kind of just bug people for the next 2 weeks so that we can make sure that we keep getting these responses and that we're getting that as much feedback as possible. Megan Nakashima from Pukulani Superette also donated some radio time. So we're going to do a radio ad to promote the survey for those folks that might not be on social media. So I was just going to pull out some language from the original email to fill up 27 seconds worth for the radio, to just kind of give a background and to get something out there to encourage people to fill out the survey. There was also a request that we do it in the newspaper. I don't have any money to do the newspaper, but if anybody has a connection, or I don't know if there might be a way to get some funding to do that, we could try and like crowdsource or something to do a newspaper ad, or maybe talk to the newspaper and see if maybe Maui Times might be interested in running a little ad for it to get something in print too. But we're doing pretty good. I think it's a pretty good response rate, and you know, a press release could do this. Okay, Nicholas said a press release could do this. Would you want to help out with the press release, Nicholas?
We just took on a new program about 30 minutes ago that I have to work on all night tonight. If there's someone else that can, sorry, I didn't mean to volunteer that up. I can send over a draft of one that we've recently done. And then you can basically just plug and chug and put in some, you know, kind of fill in the blanks with regarding the survey and what it's trying to bring together, as well as a couple of our media contacts, if that works.
Okay, Gina, is this something that maybe Shane's office could do a press release for, to kind of, that way the newspaper would probably pick it up better?
Yeah, I don't see why he'd say no.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just double check with them and get back with you on how.
Okay.
All that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I can help put that together.
Who was that? Sorry.
Gary.
Okay, awesome.
Oh,
Thank you.
Yeah, but it would be nice to come from his office.
I'll help him put it together so he can put it out.
Thanks, Gary.
Welcome.
Okay. Awesome. So did anybody have any other questions about the survey? This will stay open until the 9th of June. So that would be 3 full weeks. So we'll just keep pushing it and try to get, you know, as many responses as possible, but everybody, you know, just keep pushing it through your networks. We do have the social media posts. We've got the website, and Megan's trying to make a QR code too. So she's been helping a lot. She really wants to get as many responses as possible. So if anybody else has ideas, more than open to help and to getting the word out as best as possible. Did anybody have any problems with the link after the second link was sent out? No? Okay. Okay.
I'm really impressed by how many people are taking the time to actually put comments and things in there and not just checking yes or no. That's so great. Gather all that feedback.
Yeah, like 70 to like 100 comments on each section, which is, you know, really amazing. You know, people really do care, and the people that are invested in ag are taking the time to provide that feedback. Jamie, was that a no to no more problems after the link, or you weren't able to access?
So
the
sorry. Yeah,
second?
no more problems after the
Okay,
link. Yeah.
sorry.
No, thanks for that clarification. I'm happy to clarify. No problems with the link.
Yeah, I had like a panic attack because I was like, oh my gosh, the link's not working and I don't know how to fix that. So Megan suggested putting it in a website. So that's hopefully worked so far. We haven't really had any complaints after that. So fingers crossed that everybody can access that. Okay, so we will move on. I'm hoping that everybody got a chance to look over the director qualifications that I pulled from the Maui County Code. So these are for all of the other departments. I'm putting the link for the doc in the drive right now, just in case nobody got a chance to look that over. You can pull it up on your own screen. So that should be in there right now. So I personally went through and just highlighted some that I thought would either be beneficial or we could use with modification. But I wanted to talk about this one in blue. So as you guys saw, the deputy director qualifications are not really outlined in the Maui County Code for the other departments. However, there is nothing legally preventing us from outlining qualifications for the deputy too. And being that agriculture is such a diverse sector, I think it would be good to do something similar and outline qualifications for the deputy director too. What I was thinking is if there is a big list of qualifications that we would like to see for the director that maybe is a little asking a little too much of one person, we could specify that either the director or deputy director needed to meet those qualifications or a set number of the said qualifications. So I just wanted to put that out to the group to think over as we're thinking of qualifications, you know, if it's going to be too much for one person or we want them to have, you know, very like diverse skill sets, maybe being able to split that between the two positions. And then there was one more thing that we had originally kind of talked about with the charter amendment, and that was putting in a no revolving door like clause for the directors and deputy directors. So like no revolving door politics. That's basically where you leave a business position and then go into a position of power in government, and then you can go back into that business position and you can do political favors in that way. And that was what a lot of people were scared of seeing in those positions, the director and deputy director positions. So if we want to propose a no revolving door politics clause, that would be something that the group could discuss too during this time. Does anybody have any questions on the code qualifications that they saw? Is anybody still looking them over? Few people, okay.
So a question about the line in blue,
Yes.
registered engineer. Why does a agriculture person need to be a registered engineer?
So like I was saying before, the one in blue is the only one in the code that refers to the deputy director.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
So, yeah, so it wasn't necessarily the registered engineer part. It was the fact that they had referred to qualifications of a deputy director before. And then we double checked with OCS, so Office of Council Services, legal team, and there's nothing legally preventing us from proposing legislation to outline qualifications of the deputy director as well as the director.
So for future information, the registered engineer for the water department has caused them incredible amount of difficulties. They can't find good people. You have to be not just a person with a degree, you have to be a person that's actually gone through a test and a few other things. So it prevents a lot of people from applying for anything in the water department. And they actually make this go all the way down to workforce individuals. So we want to not have something like that in ours.
I agree totally, 100%.
Me too. And they can have one college degree, but what the hell they need to be an engineer for plant onions?
It's
Oh,
the
that's-
registered part is the problem.
Yeah, the engineering part is for the Department of Water Supply.
Yeah, but for this department, they don't need one engineering degree, right?
No. So if you look at the very
It's just-
top of this document, the
So
only
Sam,
qualifications that we have at the moment that are outlined in the charter are at the very top, the section 18-19.2. So the director shall have a minimum of 5 years of experience in administrative capacity, either in public service or private business or both. They shall have a bachelor's degree or master's degree in operations management, project management, public administration, agriculture, sustainability, or a related field. So that's the only qualification right now,
Okay,
or
but
2 qualifications.
shouldn't they be here for at least 5 years? Because I ran across too many engineers that flew in from the devil knows where they came, and they really don't understand anything that happens here in Hawaii. Even from the water side.
Yeah.
I don't know. Me personally, I think we get enough qualified kids graduating college with some kind of an ag degree that came from this environment. We don't need to go find one from Minnesota for bring them here.
So the only thing with the geographic location is it's considered federal discrimination to say somebody has to be specifically from a place. However, what I've heard, and we'll have to double check, is that you can say that they have to have 5 years of experience with Hawaiian agriculture or Hawaiian food systems. And that doesn't necessarily discriminate against it's not a place-based discrimination. So we'll have to be careful of how we word it, but you can't just say they have to have lived in Hawaii for 5 years.
Well, they say that when you got a bid for public auctions on Hawaii lands, you have to have been a resident here for at least 5 years and a state land. So if you pass for that, I mean, like you said, maybe there's another way to word them, but I'm really against them looking outside the kids that we have qualified that live here or graduated and want to come back here with substantial ag degrees and cannot find a job,
Oh yeah, I think requiring that they have, a set number of years with, agricultural systems in Hawaii is definitely needed to understand the issues and things. It's just finding that wording to make sure that we're not violating any federal labor discrimination laws.
We can do that, Jen. We did that with the archaeologist. We wanted preference, just like you said. We just said they needed expertise in Hawaiian.
Yeah.
So our attorneys can figure out how to write it.
There you go.
Okay. Any other questions on this so far? How many people are in here right now? I'm wondering if we even need to go into breakout groups. Why is it not showing? 6,
We
12.
have 12.
12. I think it's okay. You guys think that's okay? We don't need to go into breakout groups. I feel like we can manage a conversation of 12 people. So why don't we go down the row of this stuff and just see if there's anything that we agree in the, like, in these qualifications that we want to see transferred over. And then we can start getting, you know, modifying them to ag too. So the,
And can you maximize your screen and maybe go to 125%, please?
yes.
Thank you.
Let's see. Nope, that minimized it.
Holy shit.
Let's see, sorry. It's nice.
Teresa, put on your glasses.
And 125. Is that better?
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we'll just read down here. So we've got the first one as set forth in the charter. This one is 3 years of responsible managerial or budgetary experience. Do you think that's something that you would like to see? Okay, actually first, do we want to outline qualifications for both the director and deputy director?
Yeah.
Is there anybody that doesn't want to do that?
I tell you why, because one time in the fire department, the assistant fire chief got appointed. His name was Marco Maya.
Mhm.
Even never got close to on fire except his kitchen. And he was our assistant chief. I mean, nice guy.
Mhm.
You know, there was a political appointee, and that can happen. Somebody that don't know the front end or the back end of a cow.
Yep.
And
Okay.
because he get on garden with green onions, all of a sudden he's the deputy director.
All right. Okay, so I think that's pretty consensus that we're going to do for both. So we'll just start going off and making a list of qualifications. Sorry, there's something in the chat.
You know, Jen,
Yeah.
not kind of like they need beyond 5 years experience of administrative capacity. I guess that's one bullet, and then you're gonna have more. But you know, an administrator is one thing, but if they don't have the knowledge and the, you know, practical farming experience, we're gonna have one, I don't know, weird thing happening here.
I think the practical is more important than the rest.
Yeah, so the 5 years of experience in administrative capacity, either public or private, is pretty cookie cutter for all the departments in the charter. So that was why it was included in the original charter. But now we can get more into the nitty gritty stuff and be a little bit more specific.
Can it
All
be
right.
a composite of both? You know, practical and administrative?
Yeah, we can add. So this first one, it's in the Department of Ag. That won't change because it's the charter. So everything that we add to the code will just be in addition to or more specific.
Okay.
So the second one, this one that I highlighted, do we want them to have experience of responsible managerial or budgetary experience?
Isn't that why you get secretaries and deputy directors?
Yes, but if you're managing a department and you have no budget experience at all and your deputy doesn't have any, like, it's hard to run a business if you don't have any budgetary experience.
Well,
You
we
need
get a lot of mayors that they hire one budget director.
But he still needs to have, the director still needs to have some experience with setting up budgets and,
Yeah.
So that we have the budget department, which is responsible for putting together the mayor's proposed budget and managing the budget throughout the year. However, each department is responsible for proposing their own departmental budget.
right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask a favor. I know some people don't like to talk, but it's really hard for me to switch back and forth with the chat. So if you could just unmute and I'm
Yes.
sorry.
No, Jennifer, I'm so sorry. I have my son, and so I'm just trying to mitigate the amount of noise he makes in the background. So I would just agree that I would say that they need some sort of experience with budgets. I think that's pretty important. Not that they need to be highly experienced, but I feel like they need to have some familiarity with it in order to be in that position.
Okay. So this is a normal, qualification that they put in for the other departments. Do we feel like that is something that we would want to carry over to this department too?
Yes.
Okay.
I would say yes, because it also shows past leadership experience.
Yeah. Okay, and so down
think so.
here, this is kind of very specific to public works. Anybody can stop me as we're going through to say, oh, we skipped one I wanted to look at too, but these are budgetary experience. So like, as we get into ours, where we get more specific, we can use like this example, like 3, where they go A, B, C, D, and then they did it up here in the water supply too. So you can kind of see where we can get more specific. Okay, so this is developing and implementing programs. So I think that's a good, language to use, that they should have some experience developing and implementing programs in the past. And then we can be more specific on what those programs are. So I didn't mean specifically it had to be cultural, recreational, or leisure activities, but cultural,
agricultural, food
yeah.
security, and something.
Okay. So, then I felt like this one was pretty good. Planning and developing efficient program to facilitate the rapid, safe, and economical movement of people and goods. And we could take out people because we obviously don't need to transport people. But
What department is that under?
that is, let's see, Director of Transportation. There was 2 in here. The second one is the coordination of transportation programs by and between private, county, state, and federal agencies. And we could take out transportation and put agricultural programs between private, county, state, or federal agencies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I like that.
Jennifer, Jennifer, is the coordination like for helping transporting workers?
So this is examples from the code of other departments.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just saying, in reference to ag, is it more important like coordinating transportation of workers to farms?
Oh, we would take out transportation and just put coordination of agricultural programs by and between private, county, state, or federal agencies.
Well, the state is not involved with transportation of workers. I'm just talking at the local level. The farmers used to do their own system of transporting workers.
Oh, you mean, oh, I think you're being like, oh, okay, it's specific about like actually transporting like agricultural workers. Okay.
In terms of ag, it would be possibly because shipping of goods, that's a state function. I mean, they control airports, the young brothers. So to me, in ag on Maui, it'd be coordinating transportation of workers.
Well, in the areas of need, we did specify that we wanted to have the department start developing distribution channels both on island and inter-island. So remember, there was the conversation where there was goods out in Hana that they had trouble getting over to Central Maui, and then Michael said that he was leaving empty-handed out of Hana back to Central Maui multiple times a week. And there was nobody like really coordinating the distribution of these goods back and forth, and that there was very little coordination within the county of distribution inter-island.
So on those two items, what you're suggesting is at the top one that we actually are addressing something related to transportation, item B, but that it's about the movement of goods.
Correct.
And the second one doesn't has to do with more, but agency coordination, but not to transportation.
Correct.
It seems like because this is specific to the Department of Transportation, that may be some more general language or some language that's actually reflects what we came up with in the survey about this, maybe. In some ways, I think if we look at the language of the survey as we maybe as a starting point, or as a suggestion for some of these, for how to.
Yeah, so I just wanted to know, like, if this language, if we modified it, if these are going to be things that we could modify enough to utilize the language. That way you're not having to go through this whole process behind the scenes once you start getting into the drafting of the actual legislation of like, does this language work? Is that going to be okay? So the more we can use existing language and just switch out words, it makes it easier, but we don't have to do that. So we'll put a pause on these two and go down and see what else there is. So here's another one that kind of outlines developing, supervising, and coordinating programs. They don't need to be designated to meet housing needs. It's just the example of the language of as a part or in addition to the 5 years administrative experience. They would need to have 3 years of experience in developing, supervising, and coordinating programs and projects. And then we could change the last couple of words to be specific to meet those areas of need. Does that make sense?
That looks good. You could also put agriculture right between coordinating agricultural programs, period.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you add that little bit of it, that makes a really good addition to that language there.
Clarifies it.
Projects, okay. Okay. So the C, the recommending revisions to a general plan of a municipality or other government entity on behalf of the municipality or other government entity to guide its development. So a lot of the times we have these community plans that are updated every 10 years, and there's really not any agricultural perspective. So it would be part of the director, deputies, director's responsibility to look at those plans and recommend revisions to them based on the needs of the agricultural sector. And then that would also like preparing and enforcing long range plans for agriculture and cultural resource management. I thought these were really good that we could use, that the director or deputy director would have to have some experience in kind of like large scale planning. Because especially if we're looking at them and we're asking them to like go in and look at the water prioritization, distribution and storage, that's pretty long-term vision. So making sure that they have experience or qualifications in that might be something that could be beneficial. But what do you guys think?
But what if our priorities are different than their priorities?
As in how?
Which things they think are more important, in what order they should happen?
So hopefully if they're a director that's working with the community, they would take that information from the community, but still be able to prepare and administer plans or programs. And, you know, us setting out the areas of need in the code is going to try and help push them in that direction. Making sure that they have qualifications to do all of those things will hopefully push them in that direction. And then, you know, going in and making sure that we voice our opinion of who we think is going to be good in that position once the nominees come up is going to be super important. There's no guarantee that anybody is going to act a certain way once they get in. But we would hope that if they have the experience with doing long range planning or, you know, recommending revisions and things like that, they would be listening to the community as they did that. So do we think planning is an important qualification or not so much?
It is in some way because ag always runs into planning. Farmers, whenever you're trying to have something built or do something, so there should be some kind of coordination. So that ag doesn't get left out, but not like the main focus, or hopefully not, you know, the focus is production.
Anybody else have comments?
Yeah, I'm not sure about the language, but I agree that a lot of issues come up around zoning and permitting and stuff that has to do with, you know, the agricultural zoning. And part of the role of the department of the director should be to like help to either, you know, guide farmers through that, or to recommend changes to the code that would help support agriculture better. So having some kind of experience in planning, or some kind of, yeah, some kind of experience with planning is probably useful in that way.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm gonna make a note that we want to go back to this and maybe modify the language so that it could be more ag specific. Okay. Let's see, we went through this one, budgetary. These are pretty specific to the budget department and or finance department. So I didn't see anything that necessarily they would have to do specifically, because finance would take care of most of that. Except for this one, the maintaining a perpetual inventory of lands, equipment owned, leased, rented, or controlled. So as we get into the infrastructure part, do we want them to have like inventory experience, or make that be a qualification that they have an inventory of that stuff within the department.
Is this a qualification or is this a responsibility? It kind of
This
seems
is-
like more.
It does seem like a responsibility, but with this, they can get very specific in the code. So, you know, these examples, we don't have to use them. We can use the idea of them and make them ag-centric. But it just shows us how specific they are getting with some of this stuff in the qualifications in the code.
I mean, I think that that is an important responsibility for the department to basically maintain an inventory of lands and equipment owned by that department.
Mhm.
I'm just not sure if that's, if the way that this is written, if that's like if it's saying that the person, the director needs to have experience doing that, or if it's just saying that's part of the job description.
Okay, so we want to modify the language on that one.
When you say equipment owned, leased, rented, or controlled, that is inventory that the county owns, or kind of like what's?
The county, the equipment is county owned, yeah.
Okay, so like the ag park and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then as the ag department develops, hopefully we can have equipment, you know, under the ag park that, or under the ag department that could be utilized for ag projects that would have to be inventoried. Not right away, probably, but hopefully down the road.
Yeah. It's kind of more a task than a qualification, but if they're not
Mhm.
qualified to do the task, then they're okay,
Mhm.
you know.
And we can say that a qualification is, you know, experiencing the oversight or experience with oversight of inventory and equipment. You know, it doesn't have to be specifically this. It can be
Right.
something that we see as a need and just modify the language so it fits with the narrative for the department.
Yeah, I
And
think.
I see looking, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, Scott, I think I agree with you guys both that it's definitely not of a qualification, but I think it's a task. And I think if they just have general experience of inventory management, that covers it. And it doesn't even have to be agricultural inventory. I mean, being able to manage inventory is managing inventory for the most part.
Yeah.
And the, under the, looking up now what in the document that this basically says, in addition to the, says 3 years experience in one or more of the following functions.
Mhm.
So I guess my question would be, is it really, is it up to each department to sort of manage their own inventory, or is it the director of finance's responsibility to manage the inventory for the departments? Does that, is like, do the other departments have this kind of a qualification in them, or is it really just finance does that for all the departments?
From what I've seen is that, you know, each department is responsible for keeping their own inventory. That is then presented to the Department of Finance, and they keep like an overall record for the entire county.
Okay. And I think it's useful, this, the way that's phrased there is like 3 years of experience in one or more of the following functions. So if there's things that we think are like, would be useful for the director to have, but not necessarily required, then you could put them in the list of, you know, of one or more, so that it, you know, the more they have, the more qualified they would be, but it wouldn't, like, somebody wouldn't have to have experience in all of these.
In every single one,
you know.
yeah. And we can also, you know, that's where that clause for the deputy director, we could say, you know, between these two positions, they would need to have qualifications in at least this many of these things. Okay.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry for being late here and coming in the middle of all the fun, but it looks as though you're going through what the qualifications are for directors of existing departments, and then taking some of that into the qualifications for the director of the Department of Agriculture.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess when I see all these different things, like item K is, as someone mentioned, it seems more like a task than a qualification. I'm just worried that we'll end up creating a set of qualifications that will be so burdensome that we won't be able to cast a wide net for a director. Right? I mean, we want someone who can kind of stick handle their way around county bureaucracy, but at the same time has agriculture at their heart and an understanding of agriculture. And at least from what I've seen so far, that's not part of it, but maybe that's just because I came in late.
So
Jennifer.
there's, oh, go ahead.
This is Kenneth. You know, because we haven't had this Department of Ag, in OED was pretty much the OED grant manager. She was responsible for having this list of the equipment part. Maybe not the lands, but the equipment. So it wasn't under the director. It was a someone underneath the department that took inventory.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean,
not necessarily a director's job.
Yeah. So we can do oversight or experience with or something that just ensures that the department is going to have some of that in, or we can be like, that's a no-brainer. Hopefully they will do that and we don't need to include it. So there's, you know, there's different ways to look at it. There's also the option of we can outline these things and make a comprehensive list. And if we feel, oh man, we kind of really went overboard, we can pull things out and we can say, hey, Shane, County Council, these are the proposed qualifications, but then we would like to give preference points on the application to folks that have experience with these other things. So there's two ways to do it. There's what we can outline in the code, and then if we think we're being too specific, we can take a preference, like a point sheet basically, and the more things they have when they apply, they would get points for that. Does that make sense?
I think that's a good way to do it.
So yeah, we want to make sure that we can get somebody that's, you know, had experience here, that's going to have a really diverse skill set, but that can actually meet the qualifications too. We don't want to make it so ridiculous that we can't hire anybody. But having an idea, giving them an idea of what we want to see, what the qualities and experience we want to see in those people that are being hired, the more the better, you know. But it doesn't all have to be outlined in the code. So like the second one, the submitting quarterly statements of revenue and expenditures, if we say they have budgetary experience, we might not find it necessary to include that. Go ahead, sorry, I cut somebody off.
Well, and we can also go back to saying like one or more of the following so that it doesn't exclude them if they don't have all of them, but it's that's kind of like preference points too in a way.
Jennifer, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Are you still gonna have the position, what I had, the ag specialist? Because I used to keep track of the county ag lands. That was my job.
That was your job?
So this is nothing that a director does. The equipment was the, you know, our grants manager, she kept track of whatever we bought and technically owned, even though a group used the equipment, but I was in charge of the lands. So this, to me, is not something the director should have to be doing.
Yeah, it's not up to me what positions they keep. And the only thing that our group has any kind of like say in is proposing legislation through the code. So if we're like, if we wanted to specifically see that position be put back in, we would have to be specific with that, or we would have to say like the director or deputy director would have to oversee the inventory of lands or equipment. And then that means they could oversee it. It wouldn't necessarily have to be them doing it, as long as that was being done and it was under them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you could do it that way.
I think if that position remains, then the department should work hand in hand with them too. If not, there's gonna be a clash.
Can I make a comment, Jen?
Yeah.
We can add positions at budget time. So if for some reason the first year it comes out and it's not in there, we can go ahead and add it in. I mean, it is up to the director to fill it and they can, but something like that, I wouldn't see a problem, but we've done that before. So if it's not exactly how we want, we can get in there and add, and I don't know, but I don't think we can delete positions.
Yeah, they can cut funding, which would force deletions, but that's not very
Or you-
nice.
Yeah, but we will have some flexibility with
Yeah.
staffing. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the board is really open for us on what we want to see within these qualifications. And, if it's something that we think is important, like budgetary experience or inventory experience, we can word it in a way that it doesn't necessarily have to be them that does it, but it would be underneath their responsibility. So it would have to be done by somebody. So for the quarterly revenue and expenditures, I personally feel like that could be summed up by budgetary experience. Do you guys think it needs to be, really that specific, or do you feel like budgetary experience is enough?
Budgetary experience enough.
Yeah, I think that's pretty specific to finance.
Okay. Okay. So the blue one was what we talked about, the fact that the deputy director isn't normally outlined, but there is this one reference and there's nothing legally preventing us. So I'm not saying that anybody has to be a registered engineer. It's just the one example in the entire code that specifies deputy director. So that's why that was highlighted blue. Okay, so for this, again, it's talking about long range improvement plans, and then water use and development plans, and then preparing an annual operating and capital budget. So I'm pretty sure, Gina, don't all departments have to prepare an annual operating and capital budget to submit to the budget department?
Yes.
Okay, so
yes, they do.
yeah, I'm not sure why this is in there. I didn't know if we had to be specific, but I think it's okay to leave that out because that's pretty much a no-brainer. Everybody has to do it.
It's one of those tasks. It's not
yeah, so I don't know why they did it in this specific section, but that was what I wanted to ask. So here's another, go ahead, sorry.
Well, that goes generally with just having some budget experience too.
Yeah. Okay. So long-term plans, I think it's a good thing, but we could minimize that and do language for that, language changes. And then corporation council, I didn't really see much applicable to here. The only thing I was thinking is that having some kind of legal background or be able to oversee something, because there are so many different legal challenges within the ag sector. It might be beneficial to have somebody with some kind of legal background. Sorry, there's a chat.
So maybe not legal background, but just aware of stuff.
Okay.
It'll help being aware, but
Yeah.
I don't know what a legal background kind of makes it like they have to have some kind of attorney experience or whatever.
Yeah, not necessarily. Like for like my degree, sustainable science management, we had to take business law classes and environmental law classes. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not practicing to be a lawyer or anything like that, but I do have some knowledge of the law. And with the director having to navigate between the county, the state, and federal level, it might be helpful for them to at least have some law background, not necessarily any practice or anything like that, but that might be something that we could put in the must have one of these, one or three or more of these things. Go ahead, Kenneth.
The way we have always done it, okay, I'm just saying because we didn't have an ag department, we were with OED. An attorney is assigned to our office. So when we have legal questions, we refer to our assigned attorney. So to me, that's not necessary.
So
we get the legal advice.
You do get legal advice. We get the same, or we did get the same legal advice from the council. And a lot of the times that legal advice could be biased, extremely biased.
I'm just saying how we did it. We had an assigned, legal attorney, and so we would work with that person.
So basically, if we left it up to no legal experience, we would basically be the department would be completely reliant on the guidance of Corp Counsel. And is that something that, the ag sector feels comfortable with? I know personally, I don't feel comfortable with the guidance of Corp Counsel when they gave advice. A lot of the times they gave incorrect advice and it was pretty biased. Not always, but depending on the situation. So
can you say something to the effect of like, familiarity with law in the area of agriculture, so something like that, but
ag laws.
in a broad sense, familiarity with the laws, with local, state, and federal laws or whatever in the agricultural sector, or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's really good. Familiarity with local, state, and federal ag laws.
Yeah, I think that's much better because actually putting in that the person has some sort of legal experience, again, you're starting to make your qualifications so narrow that we're going to have a pretty slim pickings in terms of people that would want to apply and people that could be evaluated for that position. So I like what Scott
The intersection of people with agricultural backgrounds and people with legal backgrounds is probably fairly narrow. So.
Right.
All right, I like that. Okay. Let's see, go down. I didn't see anything in the prosecuting attorney section. Did anybody else? Okay, managing director. Okay, so yeah, I highlighted this too. 3 years of experience in one or more of the following functions. So just like having that list and then having.
Now I see pretty much all of them have that. So it's really just a matter of like which ones are the absolutely required go in the like A, B, C, and then the ones that are preferable and we'd like them to have at least one of those go in the 3, or sorry, 1, 2, other way around. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to start typing a list. Oh, go ahead, Jerry.
I was just wondering, as a random question, do you think it's more important that a director for the Department of Agriculture has a degree in management or a degree in some aspect of agriculture?
Me personally?
Well, I'm putting it out to the whole group.
Yeah. In my opinion, I think managerial experience is important. if you're a good manager, you listen to your experts. You don't necessarily have to know everything, but you have to be able to know how to coordinate things. If someone has a degree in ag, but they've never been in a management experience, that's where you run into like the micromanaging or making silly mistakes or over expenditures or huge gaps that they're not seeing because they don't have that oversight view. That's my opinion.
The charter language already has both, basically. It gives the option of either operations management, project management, public administration, agricultural sustainability, or a related field. So it's leaves it open which one. It could be either one, basically.
What is
Was there a chat that I missed?
And I wish that Jamie was still on this call and maybe she'll be able to pop back on. Wait, Jamie, are you here? I just know that. Oh, perfect. I know that Sustainable Molokai is in the process, or at least was in the process, probably still is, of hiring a new ED. And I just feel like perhaps, maybe not now, but at some point you might have suggestions too on how we can get the widest pool of applicants as well applying for this position. If it's a certain, I'm not sure how we'll have to reach out and spread the word about the position, but if you have any suggestions too, I think that would be useful because you're going through it right now.
Yeah, thanks. You know, and I'm just gonna be honest, we're trying to border that line of trying to hopefully find somebody from Molokai, right? It's a real hard island to move to, but also having someone who has enough experience to fulfill the position. So I think this is kind of a similar place where we are hoping to find somebody who is from Hawaii, who we can raise up, who's just graduated college, whatnot, but also has enough experience to fulfill the role. I can share, not right now, but I can share in a little while. Maybe I can just email it to you, Jennifer, just the way that different avenues that we approached it, if that would be helpful. But it's definitely, we didn't widen our pool. We tried to focus more local than we did, like I would say, towards the mainland. So a lot of our avenues was more Molokai and Hawaii based.
Nice. Like that. And then, you know, throughout this process, you know, you'll think of people that you're like, oh, they might be a good person. Pester them and tell them when this comes open, they need to apply, you know, because reaching out to sometimes, you know, people can feel intimidated by that kind of a position and just not apply. But if they have people saying, look, I think you'd be a good fit, you should apply, they might be more apt to put their resume forward. And ideally, hopefully at the end of this year, we can have a stack of resumes of people that we think are great applicants that would be interested, and we can hand that to them, you know?
I would just say also, I think what we've also discovered is that a big part of it is not everybody has all of the qualifications that we've been looking for, but there's been a willingness to learn and go through that professional development that they might not have. And so that might be something we want to consider. And I don't know if that's something we can language in here, but a willingness to learn or take on or go through rather than always having that qualification.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, so I want to do a brainstorming session where you guys just put out things that you think are super important for a director or deputy director to know or to do. And I can type them out as fast as you guys can say them. And then we can whittle that down. We can look at the language that we thought would work, kind of insert that and start coming up with some solid qualifications.
You want to go back to some of the stuff we talked about and then maybe wordsmith it?
Yep. So you want me? Okay, we can go.
There's a thought.
So the very first one was responsible managerial and budgetary experience. Do you want to just keep that verbatim?
Maybe copy and paste it and then we can play with it. Might be easier, I don't know. I'm glad you're driving the tractor, not us.
Glad you guys are sticking around for the ride. Okay, here we go. So as a part of or in addition to the 5 years of administrative experience, 3 years of responsible managerial and budgetary experience. Does anybody see anything that needs to be changed or keep it verbatim?
Is that second line 5 in addition to the 5 years of agricultural experience, 3 years of responsible managerial budgetary experience? Is that what we're saying? Like the
Yes.
5 years of agriculture?
So there is nothing specifying agricultural experience at the moment. The only thing specified in the charter is a minimum of 5 years experience in administrative capacity, either in public service or private business or both. And then they shall have a bachelor's or master's degree in operations management, project management, public administration, agriculture, sustainability, or a related field. So if we want them to have specific ag experience, we have to say that. So like Brendan suggested that they have, you know, that we make sure that they're from here and that they have experience here. So the first one I put down was that the number of years of experience with agricultural or food systems in Hawaii. Like what's a number that we think is reasonable?
Five.
5.
5 sounds good.
Okay, and do we want to say agricultural or food systems in Hawaii? Or do we just want to say agricultural systems in Hawaii?
I think food systems is good because if you're involved in a food system here, you at some point will have come face to face with agriculture, its strengths and weaknesses here. So I don't know if we want to have like in parentheses a list of what would constitute experiences if you were working with co-ops, if you were working in wholesale, if you were farmers markets. I don't know if we want to get that specific at all.
Would it make sense to say something like agricultural production or distribution or something like that so that it's food systems? I'm just thinking might be a little bit, I mean, you could say like you're in the restaurant business. Yes, you would have dealt with procuring food from farmers, but that's not really agricultural experience.
So do we just want to say agricultural systems? And then if, you know, if they've had experience with relative agricultural food systems, that could be counted, but not if they were just doing purchasing for the restaurant or something.
Well, I kind of like the food systems component in there because I think of, say, someone like Steve Phillips, who I know he's had some agricultural experience, but you know, he's got a lot of experience now with food systems and distributions here. And he would have a, you know, a person like that would have their finger on the pulse of agriculture in our island, so that perspective of food system is something I could get behind. But like like the procurement person for a restaurant or a hotel, I wouldn't consider that completely relevant experience.
Does it make sense to say agricultural or food distribution systems?
Agricultural production or food systems?
Agricultural production or food distribution systems, something like that, or agricultural production or distribution system.
I like that.
That's good.
Good.
Okay. For the second one, is there anything that anybody wants to change on that? I don't really know what the responsible managerial means. I think we could just say 3 years of managerial and budget experience. Or does responsible means they were in charge of overseeing it?
I would recommend saying departmental managerial. You could be a manager of one person and claim that you have experience.
Well, if we say departmental, then it would have to have somebody that had actually managed a department before, which is going to be very limiting.
Well, but you need something that's, you know, a significant size. Pick a word, an adjective that works. It isn't per se a department of this county or a state. I mean, I manage 5,000 engineers at Oracle, so. That was a department.
The charter language says in either public service or private business or both.
How about keep some of the charter stuff? Use that.
We have to keep, we can't change the charter stuff.
Yeah, so just plop that on maybe.
Okay.
Now, how would that work?
We could say 3 years of high level managerial or budgetary experience.
That works.
That way it's not specific to one entity or type of entity. Or mid to high level.
I think just managerial, and then the best one will get the job, the one with the most points.
So no level, just managerial and budgetary experience.
Yeah. And then it's not so intimidating for people to apply.
Yeah, do we agree with that?
I have to say anybody who's going to be intimidated by this isn't anybody we're going to really want to do this job. You don't want somebody who can be easily intimidated by being afraid of managing.
Yeah, I take back intimidated. This is limiting.
Okay, so we've got 12 people on. If you think we should keep in high level or mid-level, say yes. Okay, so I've got one yes, so we're gonna take it out and just leave it managerial and budgetary experience.
Because there could be a mother out there that's raised her kids and she's looking for something else to do. And she has 3 years, a lot of experience with managing and budgeting, raising a family. And who knows, she could be the ace for us.
Okay. The next one we went was. Sorry, I'm trying to find my way. Papers, I put them out of order.
Don't you get lost?
Huh?
So don't get lost. I was just going to say, after Jerry said that, or a Jennifer with only one kid and a lot of time.
It's not going to be me. Sorry. Okay. Okay, so the next one we have is guiding efforts to optimize opportunities for environmental, natural resource protection, sustainability, conservation, or restoration. Which I'll copy and paste that down there. Let's see. Sorry, it's a lot of scrolling back and forth. Okay. So is this maybe one of the things that we want the like one of three list, or do we want this to be like a solid, they need to have this experience?
Probably one or more of the following, I think, because
Yeah, I think one or more, it opens up the door for folks that maybe have a little bit less experience, but then once again, we can look back at if there's individuals that have multiple experience in that area, that's great, but it's not as limiting.
And didn't the original question that went out for the charter amendment talk about a sustainable agriculture within it? So you would want to have someone who understands sustainability, conservation, all of those things.
Yeah. So I think that's a fair thing to put in for sure. Okay. The next one was.
So you would want to say experience guiding efforts to optimize opportunities, et cetera.
Yeah,
well,
it says
the line above that, it's
Yeah,
3 years of experience in one or more of the following functions.
Oh, okay, okay.
So this is the one that we added earlier, but we took out the last bit and added ag programs and projects. Is there anything else we want to do with this one?
Is that redundant with the first line saying 5 years of experience with agricultural production and food distribution, and then also saying 3 years in experience in developing, supervising, and coordinating agricultural programs and projects?
It seems like it's redundant, but for legal purposes, it has to be redundant.
Minnesota County has it written.
Yeah. So it's, that's why it says that, so they can't say, well, it doesn't say in addition to, so it's this. I could just do this. You know what I mean? So the redundancy, unfortunately, is necessary sometimes, but we can ask OCS when we go through it to see if there's anything we can cut out that makes more sense. or a way to list it that makes more sense so it doesn't have to say the same thing each time.
And maybe those two could be combined. So it's 3 years of managerial and budgetary experience and 3 years of experience, because the first part of that is the same. So those two lines.
Yeah, we could just bullet point it like they do with this one down here. So this bullet point would be required, and this bullet point would be one or more of the following. Should we do it that way?
That makes sense.
That would be one way. If you want to do that later or now or what, Jen, if you want to just blow through it.
That's okay, I can do it real quick. Okay, and then we want to put this down there too, yeah?
I don't think that goes underneath as part of or in addition to 5 years. We want 5 years of ag in Hawaii experience.
Oh, just on its own, okay. Sorry about that.
Well, that's still required the way that it's laid out there, but it's giving you the basically 5 years of administrative experience could be in an agricultural operation, and then it would cover both, you know.
Sure, but not as part of, so it has to stay by itself.
Yeah, because it's not 3 years of the following.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Kind of want that to, you kind of want that to stand out too, so that's kind of the big quest, yeah.
Okay. Let's see. There was the familiarity.
That one might go below in the one or more section though.
Did we say aguas?
Do we want that specific to Hawaii or any county, state, federal ag-related laws? I'm just asking what you guys think.
Hawaii would be best.
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones where familiarity of county, state, and federal agricultural laws in general would be is great, but it would be ideal if they had Hawaii specific or the ability or, to want to learn that if they don't know. But I would hope that would be something that they have familiarity with in terms of it being state specific.
Part of the interview process too is if, some people offer things like that and say, well, I'm not real familiar now, but I'm willing to learn. And that kind of, in an interview that kind of maybe put side points on.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, taking an effort or at least saying they will.
So they have basic familiarity with it, but they'd be willing to learn more about Hawaii specific.
You could use a similar approach with the planning aspect too. So something like familiarity with county, state, and or county and state planning and zoning. You know,
Okay, so let's pull that
related to Hawaii agriculture.
planning section down because it had quite a bit. And then we can like chop it up. Oh, I didn't mean to cut it, sorry. So we can take it all and bring it down here, and I'll grab the one from the water to planning, and we can put it down here and chop it up. I'm gonna do it at the bottom, and then we can copy and paste it in the area that fits best.
I think it's kind of important to have the Hawaii-centric part as a qualification. I just remember a story that Hokuau told me about when there was an inspector either from planning or from RPT that came out to his farm, and they didn't really see having taro plants in like Lo'i Kalo. They saw that more as a ornamental garden rather than a production thing. And the guy was apparently had been hired by the county, but grew up, trained, and was from like Indiana or something like that. So, you know, if someone is has a lot of experience with specifically with Hawaiian agriculture, they understand that we do some things differently here than the way they might do it in Illinois or California.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so here's the different kinds of like planning, preparing plans, guiding, or helping with development, and implementing. So we could condense this, make it ag specific. So let's just take out.
Can we say something to the effect of familiarity with county and state zoning, planning, and permitting process, agriculturally related planning, permitting, and zoning processes in Hawaii, something like that?
Planning. What did you say?
With agricultural related, with agriculturally related zoning, planning, and permitting processes in Hawaii.
That's a big one. Good one.
Mm-hmm. So I think this one is not really, if we're covering the zoning up here, we can take out this. Revisions to, what if we did recommending revisions to community plans or other governmental entities?
What if we say knowledge of, and knowledge of, and knowledge of, and I don't know if that works. But,
Maui Island General Plan?
or experience or something like that.
So do we just want them to be familiar like with planning? Like, or do we want to have them have actual experience preparing and administering plans?
You can go knowledge and experience, maybe, or something like that. I mean, that's the preferred. So we kind of putting down what we prefer, right?
Mhm.
And then you kind of get what you get afterwards.
Okay, so do we want long range planning? Is that something that they need to have experience with?
It would help.
Okay. What about cultural resource management?
That's important. Oh, there we go. Combine them.
Water use and development plans?
High on the list right now.
Yeah.
Do we want to put that under recommending revisions to water use and development plans, general plans? Or do we want them to be able to prepare it?
I think for the ag department, it kind of goes all under the either experience and knowledge or familiarity, however we want to say it, but not getting so specific that they have experience like actually recommending plans or developing plans, but just they have some familiarity or they have some knowledge of that subject area, basically.
Okay.
I'm not sure how best to say that, but
Do we need enforcing in there, or do we not feel like we need enforcing?
I don't think we need enforcing. I mean, if anything, you would say implementing rather than enforcing.
Totally agree. Implementing rather than enforce, yes.
What about this one? I feel like reviewing lists of proposed capital improvement projects and recommending their order of priority is going to be really important for a director. You know, we're going to put the strategic plan with, you know, proposed priorities forward, but for them to be able to go through and you know, see that and be like, okay, this is feasible, what we can do this year. And then as the department grows, for them to be able to, you know, see those and say, okay, this is to be able to prioritize them. Is that an important thing?
I think it is, and if they have like an advisory committee to work with, would be good too. And I don't know if we want to mention that. If there will be one, there should be one.
There should, yes. So I'm going to keep this up there.
I like that advisory committee.
What about the next one? So the water use, I'm sorry, did I miss? So we've got preparing, administrating long-range planning programs, cultural resource management programs. And then do we want to keep this capital improvements and up-to-date water use development plans separate?
I think, Jennifer, the long range capital improvement, you need to work with the water department, because the ag department is not going to put in those improvements. And the water department has a long range planning section. Now, I don't know if you're going to have like long range planners in the ag department, or, I mean, if you don't have enough staff, then you should just leave it up to the water department, but you should be allowed to work with the water department in planning the water use.
Okay, so what if we did recommending revisions to general plans, capital improvement plans, and up-to-date water use and development plans? What if we put it all under this first one?
I like that.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, you could do that.
Recommending revisions to general plans. Of the municipality or government entity. Okay. To guide development of long-range capital improvement and development plans. How does that look?
I would get rid of the end development plans at the end of that and just have it to guide development of long-range capital improvement plans and up-to-date water use. Or it could be up-to-date water use infrastructure, something like that, because there's a couple of developments in there.
So the what up is the actual name of the plan, the water use and development plan. Okay.
Jerry, you wanted the development plan out?
Huh?
Jerry suggested taking out development plan.
It just that there's two development occurs in that sentence twice,
Okay. Long range capital.
but then so does governmental entity and municipality, etc.
Yeah.
So, but leave plan in, right?
Well, the name of the plan is the water use and development plan.
I got it. Okay, I got it.
Maybe put that in parentheses so that it's specific.
Or capitalize the title, like it, have it as a title, capital W, capital U. I don't know.
The water use and development plans. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Somewhere in there, you know, they should work with an advisory committee. Because if not, I don't know what. It's just gonna be up to the director.
So that's something that we probably wouldn't put in the qualifications, but we would put in the code.
Okay.
So if that's something that we want to add in the code, I will make note. So we would have to establish, and I don't want to get too off track because I want to stay on track with the qualifications.
Okay.
But we would have to first establish the advisory committee. That would have to be recognized in the code. And then we would have to require the director or deputy director to work with that group. There is one that's already established in the code. That is the Ag Working Group.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
So that is already established.
You have the Kula Ag Park Committee.
And the Kula Ag Park Committee. Ag Park. So.
Okay, that just makes a side note or whatever in the back of our mind. That's another tab.
Yeah, so we have the agency coordination was on the survey as one of the priorities. And that would be, you know, talking with the different groups and talking with different, you know, agencies within agriculture and coordinating to develop strategic plans and things like that. So once we get the feedback from the community that that is indeed one of the priorities of need that they see too, we can try to be more specific in that one to make sure that the directors have to work with or get, sorry, I'm lost for words right now, but.
It's good. Follow you. Yeah, all good. Like you said, let's focus on the duties.
Okay. Okay, so.
Jennifer, I think you should have something in there about labor, and it could be familiarity with the state and federal labor laws. Because labor is an important part of ag. Like, I don't know if you people realize that if you export, if a farm exports their crop, they come under the US Labor Department. And it affects your housing, the vehicles you transport your workers, because farmers in the ag park got fined by the US Labor Department.
Yeah, it gets really sticky in terms of
Oh,
the
yeah.
number of windows, the size of the windows, the height off
Oh,
the ground,
they have
number of tread on the tires.
yeah, they have their own housing requirements.
So we don't have in the preparing and maintaining perpetual inventory of all lands and equipment. So do we want to put up here 3 years of, we narrowed that down to inventory management?
That's good.
But is that part of the required or the one or more?
What would you guys like it
That
at?
seems like that could be overly restrictive because I don't think a lot of people have experience in inventory management who might be qualified otherwise.
Okay.
I still say a subordinate staff person can be asked to do that. Not the
So-
director.
So maybe oversight of inventory management.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that could
But I
be.
still think it should be in the one or more.
Yeah.
One or more?
One or
Or,
more.
Yeah.
In the wrong collection of bullet points.
okay. Okay. I think that was all of the ones that the coordination and transportation of rapid, safe, and economical movement of people and goods, and then the coordination of programs between private, county, federal, state agencies. Did we put that up here? No. Okay, I'll go pull those two under transportation. One second and I'll look at the chat. Sorry.
The chat is just Jamie stating that she has to go take care of her family. So that's it, yeah.
Thank you, Jamie. Okay. Okay, so coordination of programs flying between states. Do we want this to be something that they have to have experience with? Or, and then wait on this one and, or change the language to just goods? Opinions?
Are you open, honey?
I think because we have the other agricultural requirements above, that the coordination aspect of it should probably be under the second set of bullet points.
Okay, Scott says the second set of bullet points. Does anybody disagree?
No, that sounds good. I mean, it'd be great if you had someone who had worked, could fulfill that, but it wouldn't necessarily be essential.
And then this one, do we need to add this in, developing an efficient program to facilitate rapid, safe, and economical movement of goods. And we can take out people. We don't necessarily have to transport people. Or do we not need that?
If anything, I would say being a little more general and just say something like, you know, experience with like transportation and logistics, you know, or ag-related transportation and logistics or something like that. Transportation, distribution, and logistics. I don't know.
Start in the middle, facilitate the rapid, safe, and economical movement of goods.
Agricultural goods.
Raja. Thank you, Maarabeta Jerry.
Like that?
Jennifer, how about familiarity with the food safety, federal or state food safety laws?
Labor. Let me put it here, and food safety laws.
Because if
that
you,
might go.
Well,
go ahead, Kenneth.
Because food safety is a total issue on itself.
Yeah, it is. It's a big issue.
I'm just wondering if that is more connected to agricultural laws rather than labor laws, like say familiarity with county, state, federal agricultural and food safety related laws.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Because those are kind of connected to each other more so than labor.
Agricultural related and like there?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
And just looking at the way this is phrased with its experience in one more of the following functions, then starting with familiarity doesn't really make sense. So you could actually just take that off and start those sentences with county and state federal agricultural laws, ag-related zoning, and state and federal labor laws.
Sorry, I can spell, I promise.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We were talking about that before. We're just basically saying you have some experience in those areas.
Yeah. So facilitating the rapid.
Yeah.
Or facilitation. Now, because we have these, do we want it to just be one or more of, or do we want to have them at least have a couple?
It seems like all the other ones just say one or more. So I guess that doesn't mean we have to do it that way, but like.
So I want you guys to think about the directors you've seen in the county in the past. Do you feel like they should be more capable and more diverse skill sets, or do you think they should stay exactly as they are? Because if we say one, they will literally do one.
4. How many bullet points do we have right here?
This is a lot though. I mean, there's very few people who cover even, a few of these, much less all of them. So, I mean, maybe 2 or 3 would be good. But.
So what if we said, as a partner, in addition to the 5 years experience, the director or deputy director must have 3 years of experience in 4 or more of these?
No, half. How many bullet points do we have?
Half.
It is critical. I mean, you cannot just have 1 or 5. I mean, there's a lot of shit goes on to make ag, and if they only got one thing, we're gonna lose her again.
Yeah.
Well, then the director and the deputy need to know all of this business.
let me do an exercise right now. Everybody, I want you to close both of your hands. And as I read these off, I want you to put up a finger for each of these that you personally have experience with. Okay? Guiding efforts to optimize opportunities for environmental, natural resource protection, sustainability, conservation, or restoration. Counting.
I think a lot of us may have like some experience, but not necessarily guiding efforts. You know what I mean? Like I am familiar with, natural resource protection and stuff like that. Not like I'm an expert, but I got, a good grip on it and know where to go to for the experts to draw the plans or whatever.
So I can guarantee you in ranching, you have guiding efforts with this.
Yeah.
They would consider that guiding efforts.
I'll put my finger up.
So we're not saying they have to be an expert. We're just saying they have to have at least 3 years of experience. So I want you guys to put your, none of these say expert in. So I want to be realistic so we can have an idea of what realistically these folks should have. Okay, so the next one is county, state, federal, agricultural related and food safety laws in Hawaii. Agricultural related zoning, planning, and permitting processes in Hawaii. State and federal labor laws. Recommending revisions to general plans of a municipality or a government agency on behalf or the other governmental entity. I want to add, can we say community on behalf of the community, the municipality, and or other government entity?
I would include community, yeah.
It all blends.
Yeah, because we have community plans here, so.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we add community, on behalf of the community, municipality, or other government entity to guide development of long-range capital improvement plans and the water use development plan. Okay, preparing, administering and implementing long-range planning programs, cultural resource management programs. Reviewing list of proposed capital improvement projects and recommending their order of priority. Oversight of inventory management. Coordination of agricultural programs by and between private, county, state, and or federal agencies. Facilitation of rapid, safe, and economic movement of agricultural goods. How many fingers do you guys each have up?
Get 8.
I was gonna get 7, William. I was so close.
William has 7.
I don't like that job.
Who else? Scott, how many did you have up?
I would say 4, probably actually 3 years experience in 4 of those.
Okay, I'm trying to get my screen to go big so I can see everybody on here. Kenneth, how many do you have? 5? Okay. Brendan, how many did you have?
7 3/4.
7 3/4.
Yeah, look.
Fair enough. Jerry, how many did you have? 4. Teresa, how many did you have?
4.
Gary, how many did you have? Sorry, I didn't see it flashed. 8. Lauren, how many did you have?
Only 5.
Okay, Brittany, how many did you have?
I'm sorry, I had to step away for a minute. What's the question that we were?
So I just asked everybody to put a finger up of how many bullet points they had experience with, 3 years of experience with.
Oh gosh. Okay. Can you come back to me? Hold on.
Okay, so the lowest number that one person had was 4. The highest was 8. So if we're asking that the deputy and the director and deputy director only have 1 or more, is that really realistic of what we would want to see in a director?
No.
Or do we want to see more?
More, all.
We could say most of the following qualifications.
Does most mean 6?
It would
Out of
mean
10?
majority, yeah, 6 and higher. and maybe even where candidates with more are prioritized.
Yeah, I like that prioritizing. I mean, if you're doing a grading system, A through F, what would the percentages be like?
Well, that we wouldn't have, it wouldn't be up to us to do the grading system.
No, just based on a 1 point per bullet. If a person had 60%, is that a passing? Teresa, you're the teacher. What is it? What do you come?
So
up
these
with?
are, we've got 9.
Is
Oh,
a deep.
we've got 10. So we could
10.
say 80. Yeah, we've got 10 requirements in there.
And they're all important too, not like we're making stuff up to just make numbers. It's a really important position. It really, really is.
Why wouldn't you say something like 3 years of experience in a majority of the following functions?
So what if we said, or that's a good, yeah, in the majority. What if we said, as in part or addition to the 5 years of administrative experience, the director and or deputy director must have experience in the following functions. So between one of the two of them, they have to know about all of this stuff.
I like it.
So not one of them has to have it all, but between the two of them, whoever they hire in those two positions, they have to meet those.
Yeah, that's good.
That's good.
I think that'll really help with the hiring committee, and they'll probably take that number to heart, and like the person with the most may have an advantage, and they might just be lying. Who knows,
Well, the interviewer would say, tell me about your guiding efforts to optimize opportunities, la, la, la.
Well, the resume and cover letter's got to have coverage of these before you even get to the interview.
That's a good point you brought up with resumes, because if there's a reviewing part of the hiring, for qualifications, then maybe the ones with 2 and 3 may not even, make it to the interview.
Yeah. Okay. So is there anything that we want to have not an option, anything up here in the first area that they have to have? Or we think that's enough?
I think Brandon would like them to be able to put a cow back in the middle of the night, back in the pack.
Yeah, so Brittany said she has 4. So 4 was the, 4 was a pretty average number. And then we had upwards of 8.
Is that second one, developing, supervising, coordinating agricultural programs and projects? Is that where we want to add in Hawaii?
Good one.
That would be good.
And you need to say something like each of the following functions or all of the following functions, because otherwise, well, they can say, well, I have 3 years of experience in one of these. So that's 3 years of experience.
Being from the mainland, do you want to include something that says ability to work with multiple different cultural, what's plural of cultures? Cultures. given that there's just all kinds of different folks to have to work with. Multicultural background.
Okay,
Is that legal to say though?
Yes, absolutely.
so is that in the first one? This one?
No,
Yeah.
it's not as part of or addition to. That would just be willing to work with. Or are you saying experience, Gary?
Yeah, you need experience. When I went into Peace Corps in the 70s in Kenya, I was willing to work with multiple cultures. I found out that I had some abilities that I had to learn really quickly. So willing to learn isn't the same as having experience.
Can you state that again? Experience working with
Multiculturals. I mean, just given the breadbasket here and the different islands, this person's got to be culturally neutral almost.
multicultural backgrounds?
Yes.
Is that one word? Can't
Yeah.
spell.
One word.
You could
All
always say
right.
various cultures instead. But
With various cultural backgrounds?
Sure. Going to be multiple areas, so yes, you need to.
Okay.
I understand we're trying to set the standard high here.
Yeah.
And that a lot, but I also am a little concerned. First off, I'm not sure how hiring, like, this means that you'd have to basically hire the director and the deputy director as a unit, basically, which it's mentioned in that one section of one of these, of one position in one department. So we can do that, but it's kind of I'm just thinking through the logistics of like how you'd have to, if you make all of these requirements and then you're saying between these two different people, we have to meet all these requirements, you basically have to hire both of them at the same time. And then if one person quits or whatever, and then you're rehiring, you're saying, okay, now we have to hire somebody who fits all of the ones that the other one doesn't have. And I'm just wondering if we're being too restrictive or too, like overly micromanaging it to try that we'd be really reducing the pool of applicants by setting the standard too high in a way. That's my concern with it.
The normal process is that they are hired together. There is occasion where you'll have a director or deputy director leave and replace them. So that is a possibility. But if they're shooting to hire somebody that has as many as possible, the lowest we had were 4. So then that other person would have to have 6. So do we want to say at least 90% of these, or do we want to make it not 100 so it gives them some wiggle room, or do we think it's okay that most of these are pretty general things if you've been working in agriculture at any kind of like,
I think it needs to be 60 to 80%. And you like you said, you're going to interview, you're going to post both the positions, and you're going to take resumes and get job interviews with all of them. So it's going to be a simultaneous process.
So should we take out either the director and just say the director and deputy director must have 3 years of experience in 60 to 80% of the following functions so that they could be hired separately?
I agree. Take out either.
Yeah, because the thing is, the more specific, like Gary said, the more specific we get, the smaller the pool.
Yeah, I'm starting to get nervous because I named names and faces are coming to mind that they have 8 and 10 of these experiences, and I definitely would not want them as deputies.
Yeah. So you make the criteria real specific.
Yeah.
You may end up with somebody with no common sense and not a workable type person.
Oh, royal crook.
That's the job of the interviewer to distinguish.
Yeah.
Jerky must have it 3 years experience in 63% of the following functions. Was that what you guys were wanting?
I don't think you need to set a range because, I mean, then it just defaults to the lower end of the range, basically. So just pick a number.
At least 60%. If you're gonna say at least.
At least 60%?
Right.
So each of them must have at least 6 out of these 10.
Yes.
We good?
I live with that.
Yeah, that gives room for, new people, not necessarily brand new to the island, but familiar people with a good heart that's willing versus people of this knowledge that been messing with egg all these years, and that's why we're in this position.
Okay. Do we want to have at least 3 years, or do we just want to say experience?
Yeah, 3 to 5 years. Yeah, you do not want to have just experience.
Yeah.
Because I would have 10 if you said just experience.
Okay, so we're keeping 3, or we're going 3 to 5?
I think 3 is a little shy for somebody to run a department, a county-wide department.
I agree with you, Gary.
But we are saying they have to have 5 years of administrative experience and 5 years of agricultural program experience.
Good point.
Yeah.
Do you want to say should have 5 or must have 5? It may give the committee some wiggle room.
In typical job description, you can say the preferred and the optional, not optional, but another word that's desired. So
yeah,
required versus preferred.
Yeah, and desired, yes.
Sorry, I didn't follow that. Am I changing anything?
The question was, should we have must or should we have desired or preferred?
Oh, for the must have 3 years of experience and at least 60% of the following functions.
Yes. So changing the word must to give it a little more wiggle room.
Should?
I would say preferred or desired. Should is, you should do this.
But I kind of think these 2 different sections are already, that's the purpose of having the 2 sections already, is that the top section is your required and the bottom section is your preferred.
Right.
So if you take, we're trying to set a level of how much of the preferred is actually required,
Yes.
But so if you just say that it should have, then basically none of it is required, or some language like that, then you're really just.
With the slightly lower word than must. Oh, let's leave it as must until we can figure out something else.
On the slightly changing the subject, but on the 5th bullet point regarding the long range planning, I'm feeling like that's a little maybe overly detailed or too specific. And there's not a lot of people who would, there's a lot of people who maybe have been involved with the planning process, like they've served on a planning committee, served on an advisory committee, or in a planning, in some part of a planning process. But one thing is this is talking specifically about capital improvement plans and water use and development plans. So it's like, to meet that requirement, you actually would have to have served in some way to guide all of those things. Whereas, I mean, I think what's more important is that just somebody has some experience in the planning process,
That's where
related
my
to
question
capital
was.
improvement and water. And
Isn't the department responsible for creating the strategic direction of the county of Maui? So the person needs to know how to do strategic planning, long-term strategic planning. In what areas it is a different question. We have a lot of multiple, almost even conflicting requirements. So they should have strategic planning experience, considerable. You don't want somebody who's just planned their evening dinner.
And the next point, we're talking about long-range planning programs and cultural resource management programs. And those seem like they're almost two separate points. They came out of one item under the department, but again, for somebody to meet both of those requirements, they're kind of two separate things. And we're saying they have to have both of those to be able to meet that point. So
could you put or in both of them? And because really you want something, you want some capability in each of those bullet points. So maybe not the and, but the or.
The other question as I have is that, do they have to have 3 years of experience in every single one of these, at least 60%?
Unless you want somebody who just graduated from college applying, yes.
Well, I mean, there's very few people that have 3 years of recommending revisions to general plans and preparing and administrating long-term plans, and like 3 years in each thing. So we would be kind of putting an age cap on this, and you want somebody that's still open-minded too.
Well, these don't have to be sequential. So you could be doing some of these at the same time. Yeah, there is a minor requirement age-wise, subtle. You're going to want somebody who's around 30 or above. Anybody below that just isn't going to have the ability to run a county-wide department.
Well, we've got members of Congress that are under 30.
Yeah, but they're not running a department, so that's a different story.
Yeah. Let's see.
And we also have capital improvement twice in there, in the two, in 0.5 and then 0.7 again. Though that 0.5, 6, and 7, those are just, they're feeling like a little, like they still need some fine tuning to kind of really get to the essence of what we're really looking for, because kind of some of that we've taken the language from other departments that's more specific to those departments. And so we want somebody who has like planning experience related to capital improvement, development, water use, cultural management.
So would 6 and 7 be sub bullets under 5? And maybe take some of 5 and make it a sub bullet? that make sense?
Mhm. Like, what if, where did you say the sub bullets?
Well, preparing, administrating, implementing long range is a sub of the one above it. Reviewing list of proposals is a sub. So the idea of if there's three of them that are the same, get one of them to be the major and get two of them to be minors.
Okay, I'm gonna pull these out and then put them down here. And we can,
Typically what you want to do is on very specific thing like water use development plans, cultural resource, capital improvement. Those are all subcategories since they're specific. They're not a major bullet point themselves. Go to cultural resource, hit return and hit tab. Just hit, no, in front of culture, just hit, yeah, oh, never mind. Hit tab. Yeah, now hit paste. Oh, sorry.
then undo it, right?
Yeah, undo. Do two undos. All right, just go to the beginning of cultural. Don't highlight it. Just hit return, then hit tab. That's now a sub bullet. And whatever else is a specific example. So it's going to be such as cultural resource management, such as long range planning programs.
Okay, so preparing, administrating, and implementing and recommending revisions on, and then just list those kinds of plans.
Something like that, yes.
Yeah, I think that's because one, we're saying recommending revisions. The other one, we're saying preparing, administering, and implementing. So yeah, combine that part. And then, yeah. You could say or recommending revisions. I don't know. It's.
Same thing with capital improvements, yeah. There you go. There you go, yeah.
Like that. And then taking out.
You could just put capital improvement and recommending. Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Like that?
Yep. I'd put proposed capital improvement projects as a sub. In the following bullet.
Oh, this?
Yeah, just list of proposed, not reviewing, just list of capital.
List of,
yeah,
I know, but that doesn't make sense if you say list of proposed capital improvement projects and recommending their order of priority.
I would just say proposed capital projects.
Okay.
You want to do more than just review the list of. There you go. Yeah. Yep. Okay. May need to do priority in the major bullet.
Recommending revisions.
And priorities, yeah. There you go.
And prioritizing, yeah.
that?
Yeah.
So that's just one bullet now.
Yes.
Yeah, you have capital improvement in there twice.
I do?
You do? Oh, long range capital. Yep, you do. Proposed and long range. Yep. You just delete the bottom one. Just delete the bottom one. Yeah. So that makes it a lot simpler because I have 3 years of preparing, administrating, and implementing. And then in one of these or one or more of these areas, that's gonna open it up like crazy.
Okay, we're getting to the end. How's everybody feeling on this? Do we want to revisit it at the next meeting? And send this out to the larger group? And say that we'll revisit it the next meeting and then start on the reporting requirements?
Sounds good. Then more people can see it.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah.
It's kind of a rhetorical question. Let's say, for example, I was a farmer with 5 years experience. Do you think that any of these bullets that we have would basically pass muster as a qualification on those bullets? Since being a farmer, I have to know about zoning, planning, permitting processes, food safety. I need to optimize environmental and natural resource protection, inventory management, all that kind of stuff. But I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I think if you're a farmer and you have navigated the processes for, you know, food safety laws, for permitting, zoning, labor laws, inventory management, you're doing like the movement of goods and you've probably also recommended revisions or looked at some of these plans too. So I think so. I mean, I think there's a lot of, we have really intelligent farmers, especially the farmers that are getting towards like retirement years, that I think would be really, really great in these positions, you know?
So yeah, I would say it definitely would enable them to apply. And they just have to make it through the interview process and the review and qualifications and interview process to see if they're the best candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it was just a rhetorical question. I just wanted to see what people thought.
I think you should apply.
That wasn't where we were going.
Was that the question? That's
No,
what I
no,
heard.
You had a question, Jennifer. Is there gonna be like a minimum qualification kind of thing in the process?
The minimum qualification is the charter that they have to have a bachelor or master's degree in operations, project management, public administration, agriculture, sustainability, or a related field. And they have to have 5 years of either public or private administrative experience. That's the minimum. Everything else that we're adding is extra.
Okay.
So, you know, in this process, yeah, no, I mean, take this next 2 weeks to really think about like, oh man, actually we need this, and we can review this. We can go back because we've got it, you know, narrowed down. We've got like the format, so we can add and take away things, but you know, sharing this with your networks, this is what is the important part, sharing this. And then once we get this done, and then we get the reporting requirements, what we want the department to report on, we'll put out another survey.
Yeah.
On these 2 things.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Jennifer.
Yes.
You know, on bullet point number 2, I don't think the county has any responsibility with food safety. The Department of Health regulates, and they respond to the federal requirements, but there's no county food safety law.
Right.
No.
All inspection is health department.
You should have knowledge though, because this department.
No, but there's no county law.
Yeah.
But the county does have agricultural related laws.
State and federal regulations.
I get what he's saying.
So don't take it out. Put or in
We,
Well, you could just take out the
We
state,
don't-
county, state, and federal. Just say agriculture related and food safety laws in Hawaii.
There you go.
Okay. I get what you're saying. Okay. So agricultural and related and food safety laws.
just take out the and. Oh, yeah. Well, okay,
Does that work?
Yeah.
but it's not county. It's not a county function.
Yeah, no, I got you. That made sense. Okay. Okay. We're done for the evening. You guys are amazing. I'm going to send this out as a follow-up email within the next day or two. I've got a lot of work too. Make sure you guys go over it, think about this stuff because it's really important. And then we'll review this and then start the reporting requirements at the next meeting. The other thing is keep sharing that survey, please. The more feedback we get, the better. And I'll stick around for a little bit after the meeting if anybody has any questions. Other than that, you guys are phenomenal. Thank you so much. This was a really good work.
Thanks, Jennifer. You're a rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a rock star, Jen. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Right. Good job.
Thank you,
Good night.
everyone.
Thank you.